Hey guys, thanks for checking out the Bucked Up Podcast. If you don't mind hitting the like and subscribe button, we have 2 new episodes coming out every week. Now let's get into it. Today's episode is sponsored by one of my favorite rap labels, Front Row Regale. Started by my good friend Rock City Mark, legendary rapper Ito, and Jay Rios, they are the go-to for real hip-hop. Make sure to check out the whole team, including DJ Doo-Wop, Jay Black, Nice to Future, Boo Boo the Prince, Reno RX, and Uwop Diggs. Follow Front Row Regale on all platforms and check out the New York by Ito and DJ Doo-Wop out now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And we good. We're on. We're finally making this happen. Thank you so much for coming on.
My boy Buck, what's the word, kid?
Yo, I've been listening to that. Finally, I know. I've been listening to that new project since that album release you guys did, and that shit was different.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, man. Shit, that whole experience was a movie, man. Like I don't want to even sound cliche, but that shit was just a different vibe, man. Everybody was feeling the music. People, it was like a spiritual thing. Like people just vibing out, and the energy was crazy and shit. I can't even call it. I always tell people technically I was there, but I wasn't there. I was just so focused on the music.
Yeah.
But it was crazy. It was crazy.
I feel like that's the producer's mentality, is like a step away from it. Like you're an observer almost.
Yeah. I mean, that was my first time doing a listening event, like in front of like, you know what I mean? Like Al-Doe been doing it for years, so that's nothing new to him. For me, it was my first time really like having everybody that fuck with us listen to it at the same time we're listening to it. So I'm just looking at making sure the sound good, the studio sound, like the speakers, like everybody feels that shit.
Yeah.
So I was really there, like trying to make sure, like, all right, I hope this shit doesn't sound flat. I hope this shit's a hit. I hope the next room hears that shit. But I mean, overall, it was a dope experience. Like, it didn't take me like that day didn't really hit me until like a couple of days later. But it was dope. It was dope.
But it's cool. So like, all right, as like a comedian, I feel like in a rap, like I don't rap, but I see that mentality of like you almost don't know what you're creating. It just kind of comes out of it. But as a producer, you have to like match that energy on a person. Like you do have to sit back and observe and wait and see like what is gonna come.
Right. I was just more focused on like the body language, like how's people gonna react to it? Are they gonna really like you know, are they getting aggressive? Are they getting hyped? Like, you know, I was really focused on that because I can know like for whatever song I do the next time, I already know what to tap in and what energy I could cater to. So with that album, it was pretty much it was a balance of different shit, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
overall, I was just looking at everybody's energy and how everybody was reacting to it. I was focused on the sound, but I was really focused on the crowd of just making sure everybody is really tapped in and really fucking with it, you know. But like I said, it was my first time doing it, so I'm experiencing it the first time pretty much as everybody else is. Like it's kind of like the first time I ever heard my own shit. I heard it mad times, but really hearing it in that type of spectrum and capacity, it was like the first time of a first listener.
How do you get into an artist's head to start making a project with them? Like how do you match their energy?
Well, a lot of artists I deal with is really on a personal level. Like I don't really send out beats like that. It depends on circumstances too, like location wise. But I always got dialogue. I always build with dialogue. I don't just do the email and then pretty much just wait on whatever you do and then send it right. You know what I mean? I like to be there from the whole process. So I'm blessed enough to have a lot of artists to come to me and pretty much I cater to whatever they're feeling at the moment, like a therapist and shit like that. Like they come over here and I'm like, what you feeling at the moment? All right, what's going on? Or even just conversation, like how me and you are talking right now, and you probably just venting to me or whatever you feeling at that moment. I'm like, oh, I got the perfect shit for you. Or I'll just cater some shit on the spot and I'll make it from wherever you're feeling and then just pretty much let it off on the mic and I fucking do what I do on the program and shit like that. But Yeah, a majority of the time when I deal with artists, is always a personal level.
Yeah. Have you always been a listener?
Absolutely, absolutely. I really I'm a good listener because I really I especially like dealing with artists, you want to make sure you want to bring that out. You want to bring that emotion out in the music. It's not really like I'm not one of them guys that I play a beat and just be like just rap on anything. Like I want you to really vent off of whatever you're going through because then eventually that's going to translate into the music. And there's a lot of people that's probably going through the same shit you're going through. So people's going to relate to that and be more relatable. So a lot of the music I deal with is always on some personal level, and it's not really like let's cater to this, let's cater to that. It's just like however you feel at the moment.
Yeah.
Like I said, like so, like if you're feeling like this, I got some shit for you. Say it like this and do it over, like do it on this beat.
Yeah.
If you're feeling like this, do it on this. You know, so it's kind of like just catering. But as far as listening, I've always been that type of guy.
I've been really obsessed with the like parable of the tortoise and the hare recently. I
Right,
don't
right,
know
right.
why, but I can't like stop think I'll get like caught on little things and I'll get obsessed with it. And I like hearing you say that you're not gonna just do whatever for whatever, because that is the like hair mentality of like, ooh, what's gonna get me this right now? And
Nah,
I think the artist mind gets stuck sometimes because you're like, well, I want this to be the biggest it can, but you just have to like stay in that pocket, you know?
yeah, I mean, eventually, if it's going to become something big, then that's the universe telling you that. You know what I mean? Like you can't really force that on people. Like,
Yeah.
you can't force a hit record. You know what I'm saying? Even saying hit record now is like it's like subjective now because we don't even know what that is. You know, it's whatever the people feel. Like the people kind of dictate that now. No DJs, no radio. So as far as like hit records or like that feeling of like this is gonna be my biggest album, you can't really call that. You gotta really go by what the people feel. Like every project I do, I feel like it's the best shit. But as you're supposed to feel that way as a producer or as a rapper. But at the same time, as long as I know it's gonna be the best shit, then I'm cool with that. But whatever comes out in the public, if they feel the same way, then that's dope as well. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, when I do music, I do it for myself. I do it for my own therapeutic mind and how wherever I'm going through. Like, you know, it's like when I say I'm the therapist and I listen to what the artist is telling me. I make these beats because this is where I'm feeling at the moment. Or I feel like if I hear something crazy, it kind of motivates me to want to create something even better or even just get creative, you know. But as far as like all that, like this is gonna be my biggest shit ever and all that shit, you're supposed to feel that way. But at the same time, whenever the universe tells you it's gonna be your biggest shit, it's gonna be your biggest shit. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, you kind that yeah, you have to stay in that pocket.
That's it.
Do you have
That's
a
it.
relationship with the universe?
Um, you know what's so funny? I'm so tapped into your podcast. I remember you talking about DMT and shit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And when you talk about universe and energies and shit like that, like I took a acid probably like a couple of years ago, changed my fucking life. Changed my,
Really? Oh, I want to hear what happened.
yeah, it just changed my life. Like so, the only time I took acid, and it's one of those things I want to take it sporadically, like for occasion. But that one was one of them occasion moments that one of my boys, he was about to move to Oregon on some weed farm crazy shit, right? So I don't be tapping into the psychedelics, or I never really did. The most I did was probably shrooms. Like
Yeah.
I used to drink it in tea, so it's like a different feel. Like
Oh, those
shrooms,
like fungus drinks? Yeah.
yeah. So I used to drink, but like it was more like a tea, like actual tea
Oh,
glass,
okay. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And there was shrooms in it. So that's probably the most psychedelic I did before that. And my boy was like, "Yo, come on, I'm about to leave to Oregon. We gotta just zone out and go to another universe." So you know how that talk goes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Fuck it." I took one, and then I took another one. I took two, like in a matter of fucking 5 minutes. But
Oh shit.
yeah, thinking it was gonna be kind of like how the shroom tea was, because the shroom tea was more settled. I was more relaxed. I was chill. And we go to my house. Pardon. We go to my house and no, we go to my boy's house and we're all watching like shit on YouTube, some crazy shit on YouTube, like psychedelic shit. And by the time everybody left, I guess that's when the trip hit me. It felt like I was getting closed in, like the walls closing in, and I was by myself. And it just made me realize of who my surroundings was. And it was some crazy shit. It was like a roller coaster, of emotion. Like kind of like it was going spiral, going downhill. Like the back trip was about to happen, and I had to tell myself, nah, this can't happen. Nah, I gotta raise my fucking elevation up and make sure that I'm good. So I had to keep on telling myself that to avoid a bad trip. But overall, like it was a dope experience because it actually opened my mind to a lot of things. Like whatever I'm worried about, don't even worry about it. It's like those are like the least things you need to. The worries don't even matter. It's gonna eventually everything's gonna pan out for itself. You just got to go with the signs and go with the motion of how life is gonna give you. Um, that was when I was listening to fucking Jimi Hendrix. I took a Uber, a fucking I took a Uber pool on fucking I took a Uber pool on tabs and
Just to be around people, or were you going though?
it was just the first thing I clicked, and I was like, I had to go the fuck home.
No, you got yeah.
And fucking there was a girl who went inside the cab, and to this day, I always try to figure out what the hell did she see? Because I know my face, I was tweaking. I know she probably saw my face bugged out, looking at her like with my eyes wide. But and I just remember it was the longest ride of my life. Like cliche shit, like the lights was moving and like fucking psychedelic shit. And I was like, you know what? Let me listen to some Jimi Hendrix. And I should start listening to Jimi Hendrix. And that's how my body was a little going with the vibrations and being a little more cool and relaxed. And then when I got home, I tried to go to sleep on that shit. And I was like, oh no, I can't even go to sleep. Like I'm up. Like I'm up. Fucking start sweeping my house down, stop listening to fucking Grateful Dead. Like, you know, I was just going back and forth. And my wife is just looking at me. She's like, what the fuck happened to you? Like, what's going on? And the only thing I told her was like, yo, this shit ain't for the weak. This shit ain't for the weak. And she's like, okay, what the fuck happened to you? And I was just like explaining to her, like, yo, all the work, like getting super deep with it. Like, you know, our worries is not gonna be our worries anymore. We're gonna live like this, we're gonna do this. I thinking like kept on telling myself positive shit. Because the moment I stopped talking about positive shit, I felt like the bad trip was gonna happen. It was like some powerful shit. There was a lot of deep spiritual shit too, because it's something that I saw myself doing like years from later, like premonitions of how my life is gonna be. And that's what kind of calmed me down. Like, all right, whatever I'm worried about ain't gonna make sense because I'm gonna live my life like this in a couple more years. And that calmed me down. Like really just foreseeing whatever I'm going through in my life later on. But it was like a deep spiritual thing. So ever since that time, I really just go with the energy and go with the vibe of things. If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. I don't really trip. You know how some people be like, yo, why is this not happening? Why is this not working for me? I never think like that. I always think about, I'm like, all right, it's not my time. Like whatever God puts that purpose for me, then I'm gonna live my life like that. You know what I mean? Everything happens for a reason. Maybe I'm not ready for that shit yet. You know what I mean? Maybe a couple years later, I'm gonna be ready, you know? So I live my life like that pretty much. And that pretty much I always did, but that kind of boosted up more the fucking acid and shit like that. So that just changed my whole perspective on shit.
What do you think psychedelics does to your brain that gives you that like jump start? Like it's so hard to like, I don't understand it, but it does.
Yeah, it's like a portal in your mind that you like kind of think already, but it just brings it out more. Like depending on where you are in your life, right? Oh, they always say like psychedelics is not good if you're going through depression and shit like that because it enhances depression. But if you're in a good space in your life, or even if you got good people around you, a good atmosphere and shit like that, I feel like that could open up things that you never thought in your mind, create some whole other. It probably boosts up your motivation of doing something even more. Like for me, I always thought like, all right, I'm doing the right thing, but now it's actually giving me some clarity of like, don't worry about it. You're doing the right thing. Just keep on working and keep on doing what you have to do. Everything's gonna line up the way it's supposed to line up. And I mean, to be honest with you, and it has been that way. Like for me personally, like everything I said I was gonna do, I was gonna eventually do it. And I'm still learning and doing it. You know what I mean? And that's what life is all about. Like everything's a process, and you learn from whatever your mistakes is or whatever you put in. You could work a lot. You could do it a little more better, or try to do it a little more strategically better. So that's pretty much where I think it opens up for. It opens up a portal of creativity. It opens up a portal of something that you were thinking about doing, but now it makes you want to do it.
Yeah. It makes everything seem so important. not so important, but it brings everything, your third eye, it brings everything to the front of your brain where you're like, nah, you can't hide from this. If you're trying to hide from shit, like you're gonna deal with it right then.
Yeah, it's on face first. Like it's gonna hit you right in your face. And this is your life, and this is what you need to do for your life in order to live like this. Stop bullshitting pretty much. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
yo, go for it. Um and I mean, I tell you, like for me, like I had, like we're human beings. We always got these worries of like what's next, what I gotta do next, or how my life is gonna be in the next 5 years. Like we always have that in our mind. But for me, I have that in my mind, but at the same time, that kind of opened the doors of like, don't worry about it. You're doing the right thing. It's just you got to be more aggressive with it, And
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. It gave me clarity. It gave me a lot more clarity and shit.
Were you ever a video game person?
Yeah, when I was, like when I was a kid, teenager and shit like that.
You like
Yeah.
story games and stuff?
Oh, I was I was more into like sports and violent games, like Mortal
Okay.
Kombat,
All
Grand Theft
right.
Auto, like all that crazy. Story games is like it was cool. Depending on what kind of story game, like Resident Evil, like
Yeah, yeah,
it was
yeah.
almost story games, but it still had like fucking violence and shit like that.
Yeah, the reason I'm not just like bringing that up randomly. The reason I'm bringing that up is the like enjoyment of the journey. Because
Right.
like I enjoyed story games, whatever, but I wanted to know what happened at the end. But it's like, nah, you gotta like the whole point of it is to enjoy the gameplay, enjoy the
Journey. Yeah.
journey to the end to figure it out. Because if you got everything you wanted, like, would you be truly happy? Like you'd just be like, if you were happy even with what you were creating fully, you would be like, nah, there's no real point in doing this.
Yeah, yeah. Or you don't appreciate it a lot, as much if you got it quicker without the journey. I feel like the journey creates character, right?
Yeah.
Like you've been through so much shit, and people see your story of been through so much shit, and you finally reach to the pinnacle of what you aim for. Um, People see like that as like an underdog finally won the championship. Like, I like to consider myself an underdog because my journey's always been crazy. Like, I always wanted to do music for years, and I always had steps of how I wanted to do music. Production, ironically, production was always the last thing for me to do it. Like, I never had that in my mind to want to do beats or do production and all like that. I actually wanted to facilitate and bring the producers to certain artists, like an A&R. You know what I mean? I was doing that at one point, and I was bringing talent. So to become the talent, I stepped back and become the talent. That was the last thing in my mind. So the creator. So when you mention the journey, it's like me telling God and telling the universe, like, what's my purpose? Give me my purpose now, because I thought I had one, but now you're taking me into a whole nother route, and it's actually becoming successful in the sense of like I'm doing my thing, like with that shit. And that was the last thing that ever came to my mind. So the journey is always a big thing. Like I like that, even when I look at other people's journeys, like other artists, I always look at them as a template of like, yo, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of seeing somebody from the very beginning and see where they going at now, no matter who they are. I like to watch them from the very start. I used to
Yeah.
I used to do photography, and I got so many pictures of people's humble beginnings, and then to see them now, it's like shit. I remember him doing that, doing this, where he was at that moment. And now look at them now, juried up, concerts, festivals, and shit like that. So I always like to look at that as like the journey is always important because you're going to appreciate, depending on the person you are.
Who's some wild people you got photographs of early on?
Shit. Westside, obviously Westside Gunn, Conway, Benny, Dan, like the whole Griselda, like Flea Lord. I got pictures of Flea Lord before he was rapping.
Oh, really?
Yeah, before he was rapping, when he was around Griselda a lot. Who else? Dave East.
He has a, sorry to interrupt you, but Flea has that strange, not strange origin story, but it's like this was the last thing he expected to do. And then like Prodigy told him, like basically not forced him to rap, but was like, nah, this is what you have to be doing.
Yeah, Conway introduced me to Flea Lord, ironically, in Prodigy's last show in New York City. And it was in
Oh, really?
yeah, in Webster Hall. That big show, like kind of like when Raekwon, Prodigy, all of them when they pretty much handed the baton to Westside, and that's the first time I met Benny too. But Westside had a show. He told me to pull up, and I pulled up, and everybody was there. It's probably honestly one of the greatest shows I ever been to. One of them, because it just was like pure, like everybody I grew up listening to and the people I fuck with. Like, you know, like I never met Prodigy. I met Prodigy that day, and that was his last. Ironically, like I said, it was his last show ever. And Conway introduced him to Fleelo, and Fleelo was like, "Oh yeah, what up?" You know what I mean? But I didn't know he was rapping. I don't even think he was rapping at that time. Like you said, Prodigy actually pushed him to do the rapping thing. And but yeah, shit, like pictures like that. Like there's a picture of Conway, me, and then Prodigy above me rolling the blunt. Um, and like I said, I used to take pictures. So that's the day. Ironically, that's the day that I didn't have my camera. In the back of my mind, I was like, "Fuck, man, I don't know why I didn't get my camera," because I knew it was gonna be something special. Everybody was in that shit. Raekwon, Rock, um, the main people, the locks, like it was just fucking nuts.
But
And
that wasn't your purpose.
that wasn't my purpose. It was just pretty much going there to show support, just to be around, history. And like I said, it's a memory that I have for myself, just to be in that show. Because every time I hear about it, years later, finding out who was in that same building, and I end up just linking up with. It was one of them special shows that a lot of people just joined and watched, you know. But yeah, like I said, humble beginnings. I got pictures of the Fly Guard listening session. And it was me, Sky Zoo, Smith and Wesson, Westside, Derringer. It's a bunch of us. But like I said, humble beginnings. Like everybody's like Fly. You think about Fly Guy now, to me, that's my favorite Westside Gunn album, right? But in hindsight, hearing it for the first time in the studio, you thinking like, oh shit, this shit is crazy. But now it's kind of like one of them albums that is like, oh nah, that's the shit right there. You know, like it has so much shit on that joint. So living in the moment too. Like when you live in the moment, sometimes when I take pictures, I like to live in the moment. I just like to just forget to take pictures and just soak everything in and just pretty much be like, all right, this is a special hip hop shit. And that's it. Yeah.
How'd you hear about Griselda for the first time? Link with them because if you're there early on, you know you were.
So there used to be a public. I mean, there used to be a public access show in New York, a very well known. They always found underground artists early for years, and then they revamped themselves like in 2014, 2015. And they were telling me about Westside, specifically Westside, because Griselda was like it was still forming. It was just Westside and Conway and Derringer. And they were telling me about Westside. And then V Dawn told me about Westside Gunn. And then V Dawn told me that he was gonna have a session that I should come through and meet Westside Gunn. And then Westside Gunn heard about me from what I was doing. Cause I used to work at Rocnation. And I used to do the A&R work. So Westside Gunn heard about me through V Dawn and Mass Cypher's like, yo, I heard a lot of good things about you, man. I would love to politic and connect. So we will build on Twitter, like just nonstop of building. Like, yo, I'm in the city whenever you're ready to link up. And I'll tell him, like, yeah, I'll keep you posted. And then we eventually linked up and I brought him to the office. And he was just telling me his story. Like the story he mentions now, he was telling me that shit in 2014, 2015, what he's planning to do, what's his goals, what he wants to do. He was popping bottles in Atlanta, but he still likes his shit to be what, you know what I mean? Like everything he talks about in these interviews, he was telling me that shit then. And what he sees in Griselda, and this is pre-Benny, like there was no Benny involved. There was just Conway, Damage, and him. And he was just telling me the story about how Conway's story, how he linked up with Derringer, and
How Derringer fucking bailed him out and let him live on his couch. I remember Conway telling me that story before they blew up. It's crazy hearing it now.
Yeah, so he was just telling me like little things, and then we just started building. We started building. Like I will try to connect them with certain people, and then we went to there's a crazy picture. We went to the YouTube office, and there was like an event there. And it was me, Westside Gunn, Skyzoo, and Slim Jesus. You remember Slim Jesus?
Yeah, I do remember Slim Jesus.
We actually ran down on him. Like, yo, let me get a picture. And it's a picture of me, Skyzoo, Westside Gunn, and Slim Jesus. But Slim Jesus looks like mad, like what the fuck is going on here? What the fuck is like, you know? But it's all of us and shit. Like that's a classic picture. And but like he would tell me like, yo, I'm about to go to the radio if you want to come through. You know, like when he started linking up with Static, he would tell me like I'm about to go do this freestyle with Static, like early humble beginnings and shit like that. He had a festival called the greatest day ever. And I helped them book that. I helped connect that with them doing their first, I think their first festival in the Bronx too. It was in the Bronx, and it was like a big festival, and I think they were like opening it up or somewhat opening it up. And this is when they just got signed to Shady, and that's when I really got a chance to build with Benny and El Camino, fucking Flea Lord, so it was a bus of all of us going to the fucking festival. But think about it now, it's like, oh shit, like, it's just so crazy how many people I was around with or legends I was around with, just being there, clicking with people, you know what I'm saying? Because I fuck with them, those are my peoples. But at the same time, doing that, it was dope. There was another time. What was another time?
But you didn't feel it in the moment. You didn't realize how
I was
special all that was.
not even that, because I knew, for like I said, I'm a fan of this shit, right? I knew it was special, and I knew it was growing. I knew it was going to grow eventually or become bigger than what it was. But at the same time, I'm just living in the moment of like, oh shit, this is dope. Like they like a festival actually doing this type of music, like a real grimy boom bap. Most festivals was like Fuchsia, Travis Scott,
Yeah.
fucking that type of, you know what I'm saying? This is Griselda, like boom, like grimy early Westside Gunn shit.
Hey guys, this episode is sponsored by Infused Productions. Anyone who likes good weed, good music, and good people needs to check out Infused Productions. And make sure to come to one of their upcoming shows, always featuring your favorite cannabis vendors and growers. Also, don't forget to come join the Grumpy Cup in Greenfield, Mass, July 8th and 9th. For a comedy show, cannabis competition, barbecue competition, and exotic car show. Make sure to hit up Infused Productions on IG, Facebook, or go to infusedproductions.com. That's INFUZED productions.com. Or if you want to check out the Grumpy Cup, go to thegrumpycup.com. Let's get back into it.
And just to see that, just being around it, like, yo, this shit is dope. I could see it slowly progressing into the shit that I grew up listening to and how we all appreciate this type of shit. But yeah.
The reason I say that is because it goes back to like what we were talking about before about how you don't know, like the universal push when the universe is ready, but sometimes you don't know what that thing is that's gonna be next. In that moment, did you like what connected? Because I know what connected to me to Griselda in the beginning or what, but like, did you know? Oh, this is different.
Like I said, talking to or just talking or being around Wes and shit. I seen Wes a few times prior to me linking up with him. I remember once, ironically, this is how the universe works. One of my boys owned a store in Brooklyn. It was called Rock and Soul, and they used to sell the Rocnation hats early. And I remember Westside Gunn. It was a big event. Everybody was there. I remember Westside Gunn smooth by himself walked in, gave me and my man a pound, bought a Roc Nation hat, and kept it moving. But ironically, now he's with Roc Nation, and I just saw him really like at that time buying that hat. But I just remember seeing him, and he had the gold fronts, and I was like, okay, this is like some old, like, I remember ASAP doing it, but he Westside's are like, a little older, like my age. I'm like, oh, he remind me of back in the day, stick up kids from the '80s and shit, and even the way he talked. And I remember listening to the song he did with Sky Zoo, the Rolex. And I remember watching the video. I'm like, yo, where the fuck is this at? Like I know Sky Zoo's from Brooklyn. Where's he from? And then, like I said, building with him, just talking to him and him telling me my story about Buffalo. I'm like, Buffalo? Yeah, I remember going to Buffalo when I was younger, and I knew how Buffalo was back then. And I know he was like, a little gritty back then and shit like that. So he's telling me his story about Buffalo and what came out of Buffalo, Rick James, the Buffalo Sabres, the Buffalo Bills. That's all for me, being from New York City, that's all I really knew, And Lex Luger. Lex Luger's from Buffalo, the wrestler.
Is it? Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Don't quote me. I feel like this is like muscle memory. I feel like I think he's from Buffalo. Don't quote me, but
I thought you meant the producer. I was just
no, no. The wrestler, the butcher rat, butcher rat. Nah. Fucking Lex Luger and Sting. But well, Lex Luger I think is from Buffalo. Don't quote the wrestler. So that's all I really knew about Buffalo. And then he started telling me about the hip hop scene out there. At the time, upstate wasn't really like a thing that people really talked about. Probably the closest was 38 Special and Ito.
Yeah.
From like if you're really tapped into upstate hip hop, like Green Lantern was from I believe from Rochester.
Rochester, yeah.
Ito and Spesh. Those are only three people that came to my mind when I think of upstate rap at the time. And then when you mentioned Buffalo and all that, I'm like, that's pretty dope. That's a unique part of hip hop that nobody talked about yet. Like, what's their
Yeah.
story like? Like, I would like to see how the hood look like over there, and pretty much he would just break it down to me and just seeing for what it is. That's how I kind of knew. That's why I got more attached to it because of this, how his story was, and him being a good dude. Like he's a good solid individual. Like he was very receptive and cool and respectful, and it was mutual. Like we build, like, you know.
Yeah, it's like the underdog sees underdog thing. And I feel like that might be misconstrued, or that word can be taken negatively. But honestly, underdog is just overcoming the odds, the unmeasurable odds to do whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always find myself attracted to that, like the underdog story, and just seeing the journey from there. Because at the end of the day, especially with music, you know how many people do music, but to finally see a person's whole story slowly progressing, and then when it finally progresses, it's kind of like, for me speaking, I appreciate that. I root for that shit. Like I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, finally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Finally getting his just due. And like I say, even for myself doing music, even a producer and the people I'm affiliated with, like I'm still that fan of, like, finally they paying attention. Finally, like, you know, but like I said, I don't force it either. Like whenever it's that time and people finally catch on, it's like, all right, great. You know what I mean? Now I'm ready to just turn it up even more, you know?
And that made you want to be the A&R, like, because
Yeah,
you were a Roc Nation. You were top of the you know, like.
yeah, I was like slowly building my status as far as bringing dope shit in. You know what I mean? Like I said,
Of course, your legendary story of playing Griselda for the first time for Jay and shit.
yeah, wait. So with Jay, that Jay shit was funny because I was playing Cal on ignorant levels, like house party levels, playing that shit dumb loud. But mind you, Cal's a fucking deep rapping song, like, you know what I mean?
No, that's not like a party song.
Yo, nah,
That's the
bro.
definition of scaring the
Yeah,
home
yeah.
music.
So
Yeah.
imagine corporate people just walking in the office like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? And I'm blasting that shit on ignorant level, but I remember Jay passing by, like, what the fuck is, like, doing, like, you know, and really playing it for a lot of people in that building, like playing different shit. Like I remember that show, like I said, in Webster Hall, being there, and the next day telling people like, yo, I've been to the greatest show in a long time, like on some hip hop shit. Telling them like, yo, these dudes remind me of, in hindsight, not they don't now, but like it gave me the Ghostface Raekwon vibe. Like it gave me that grimy essence of boom bap dirtiness. Like it gave me that feeling of when I grew up. And I just kind of explain it to people like, yo, this shit is crazy. This is, you gotta tap in, like telling everybody, even fucking people who don't listen to rap, tap in, like, you know. I was heavy into that. And but I always been that type of person, even with Roc Marcy. Like I brought Roc Marcy to Roc Nation, just to have him there. You know what I'm saying? Just to have the
Really? Well, I want to hear that story because I heard the Griselda story. I hadn't heard the Roc Marcy one.
so the Roc Marcy one was like, you know, just tapping in, just pretty much letting him know I'm a big fan. Like I grew up on rock. So like I linked up with Jazz and I told Jazz, like, yo, I'm not one of them dudes that promise people at the time, like, yo, I could give you this. I just want to build first and connect, just to see what's your goals, what's your plans, what do you want to stay this route? Some people rather prefer not even being that deep in the in the mainstream industry of a major label, you know. Some
Yeah.
people like to be in their lane of like, I like what I do, I like my samples not cleared, I like to do my own shit, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, but just to build, just to be a fan. I'm really just a fan. Like yo, Rock. I was listening to this and this and this, and he was cool. Like he was cool and receptive, and Jazz set the play up. Like we got a chance to really build and talk, and but yeah, and then eventually later on, you know, like Press Love saying like, yo, I just play Rock for Jay, like shit like that just always bugs me out because I'm like, I'm glad enough to say I'm the first one to brought him in those buildings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I got Rhapsody signed in Roc Nation. So I did a lot of shit there. Like you can see the pedestal I was trying to really bring into the building of real rap, like
Yeah.
real rapping of how I grew up in. You know what I mean? And but yeah, if you ask me, I would have brought, if I was still there, I would have put Al.DIVINO's, the fucking SD. I would have brought all that shit in there because that's the shit I like. That's the shit I listen
I
to.
just recorded a podcast with Knack and Davino yesterday or 2 days ago, which is one of the craziest ones I've
I
ever
believe
done.
it. I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, man. But one of those, like, I'm really tapped into to this whole essence and renaissance because I'm a part of it now.
Yeah.
Wow. At one point, I was a fan, so I just looked at it as a fan growing up and just really listening to how I felt. Like, you know what I mean? The Nas and the Mobb Deeps and the Wu-Tangs all doing one song together. That's the closest feel I got from this shit going on now.
What do you think are misconceptions about major labels?
Um, depending on the deals you get, you know what I mean? It's like kind of like if you so my thing is a lot of people like to reach out to labels like, yo, sign me, sign me, sign me, and you think you're gonna get this $1 million budget and all that. And that's not the case. Some people, it's really considered a loan. Any type of budget you get or any type of advance you get is a loan from the bank. You still gotta make that up and plus more. But a lot of people still, I mean, the misconception about a major label is like once I get signed, I'm on. That's not really the case because there's a lot of people that get signed and get shelved because they don't know what to do with them. It's always best to come in as an independent artist and already have your shit already structured enough to be like, I did this, I did this, I did this, I'm connected with this. Have like a whole resume of shit that you did on your own. So when they finally do reach out, it's always best for them to reach out to you rather than you reach out to them because now you can really dictate a deal. You know what I mean? Like, yo, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. What can y'all offer me that I'm not doing for myself? It's kind of like some bullshit. I'm letting my nuts hang. Like, this is what I'm doing. What can you do for me? Obviously, we know what a major label can do. They could put you in certain rooms that you couldn't do independently. Like, they could push you in a certain atmosphere with this person, or they could push you in this commercial with this certain person. They could do all that. But if you're doing a lot of this shit independently, technically, depending on where you are mentally and what you're trying to do as an artist, then it's pretty much the ball's on your court. But it all starts with you as an artist doing everything for yourself first, because there's no such thing as artist development. You got to be already developed before you even get to that label. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. What makes an artist get shelved?
I guess if they don't know what to do with them, or the fans can't connect, or it depends. It's different times for different people. You can always hear cases of like the artist is not really focused, or they're not really putting out the music that they expect them to put out, or they just lazy, or it's different scenarios. You know what I mean? Like I said, some people when they get signed, they think that's it. I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
I got my deal. I'm chilling. But that's when the work really starts. So you got to keep on building that momentum. There's a lot of people who get signed, but a lot of people don't know who they are. So you got to continue building that fan base for yourself, even if you are signed. Like, label ain't gonna do that for you. You gotta do that for yourself. Like, you gotta pretty much set the standpoint for that.
Yeah, because I feel like as as an outsider and as a fan, a lot of people put the blame on the label. But since I started doing this, and since anyone who knows how to put work in knows that, like, it really does come to you at the end of the day. But I feel like it's a misconception that's the label's problem when they're probably going to put in the amount of work that you put in.
Also, it depends on like who signs you because this shit is musical chairs, right? Like, so let's just say A&R signs you and they really believe in you, like I believe in them, and then they finally sign you, but then the A&R gets fired or A&R quits. Then you're gonna have people who don't really know your type of shit because the main representation that brought you in there it's not there no more. So then that's how an artist could get lost in the mix. Also, like it's kind of like I'm recommending you to somebody. No, I'm actually recommending you to get signed, and then 3 or 4 months later, I quit. It's like, fuck, like who's gonna be my voice of reason in that building? You know what I mean? Like they don't know me. The other guy knew me. So it's kind of like that's how you could get lost in that mix also.
Do you think, and this is a more esoteric question, do you think if an artist gets fucked over by a label and then stops making music, like that's their fault? That wasn't what they were meant to do. That wasn't their purpose.
I mean, depending on I mean, I don't even is like I said, it's all on the artist, man. You gotta make sure your business is right because if a label is fucking you, it's kind of like you wasn't doing your business right. You gotta read your contracts. You gotta make sure your lawyer's on top of things. All money ain't always good money, but I know through certain circumstances with certain artists, their situations could be a little rough. So any money that they see is going to help out this situation, but in the long term, it's probably going to fuck them later on in life. So it's
Yeah.
all like I said, it's all about the artist. You got to really read what you And then the way the contracts is settled or is structured, it can confuse somebody. And that's why it's important to always have a lawyer. And that's the thing that you always hear about. Make sure you're lawyered up, because there's gonna be certain things that you're not gonna understand that man probably gonna be like, oh, nah, they're trying to fuck you. Like
Yeah.
so as far as a label fucking you, it's not really a label fucking you. It's really like it's business.
You're fucking you. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to really be on top of the shit. They're doing some business shit. That's their job. I could get this dude for the low, even though he's worth this much. Fuck that. Hell yeah, I'm gonna save up my money.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him this contract just to save up. You got to really just be on top of it, because you got to know your worth too, but you got to know what you're reading also.
It's hard to realize that art is business and you have a product you're trying to sell, just like if you were bringing a product into the market, like if you have an actual tangible item, like, oh, I'm going to sell fucking a hose for a car and I want that to be put into Walmart. It's like that's a product brought into market, and
Yeah.
art is that at the end of the day, even though you have a much stronger connection to the product that you're putting out.
Yeah, and also it's always good to, like I said, it's always put I feel like if you put the more of the work in, it's going to eventually come to you. You just got to be consistent, right? And you got to know your worth, right? You can't just take the first dollar they give you. But like I said, I can't say that for other people because circumstances could be different. But
Yeah.
I would look at a guy like God bless, like Nipsey Hussle, right? It took him years to finally announce that he's getting the deal, but that's just him structuring his own situation, to the point that when he finally got signed, it made him look more like a boss rather than just an artist. This is my label, this is my store, this is my merch, this is how much I'm selling my mixtape by myself. What can you offer me now? Like it's a different type of conversation. And if I could only imagine, if you're an artist, it has to feel amazing because you're doing that all yourself. It's not gonna be easy, but if you got the right team and the right structure and the right mindset to want to do it, then you do it. Because at the end of the day, music can be very it can be a discouraging thing, because you put all this work and you don't get the reception that you want, or you don't get the accolades you want. And sometimes you may see peers that reach faster than you, but at the end of the day, that's their journey. Like going back to journeys and energy and shit like that. Your time is not your time. I feel like the moment you start thinking like that, that's when I feel like that universe is going to answer to you, because now you're not even paying attention to it. I'm gonna make you pay attention to it. It's kind of like, like hard to get in a sense.
Yeah. It's kind of like with love. Like when people are like, all
Example.
right, you can't love someone if you don't love yourself. And you hear that and you're like, okay, like that's a very like but it's true. Like you're
Yeah.
not gonna, if you don't believe in your shit fully, why would anyone else believe in your shit?
Yeah. And I always like to use the knocking the door thing, like an example, right? Like, so when you do music, obviously it's like people gonna see it and then bypass it. Like somebody who knocks on your door. When you knock on your door, you're gonna be like, I don't know this person, I'm gonna ignore it. But if they keep on knocking on your door, you're gonna be like, who the fuck is this? Like, you know what I mean? Who is this? What do you want?
Yeah.
That's how I would look at it with music. The more you keep on putting, they're gonna eventually like, all right, this guy is in my face too many times. I gotta listen to what he's talking about. I like
Yeah.
to use that as a metaphor sometimes with that.
That's funny because that's how I find my artists, is like, damn, I keep seeing this guy's name over and over and over again. And it's crazy. Like with you, like I saw your name and your music, not knowing all this other stuff until way later. And
Yeah,
then it's like, oh, you have this backing that you've been putting into it. It's
yeah,
how I see my podcast. Like I could push clips and cut 10 clips from every podcast and try to push it and by marketing, but I just put out so many episodes that you're going to see my name at some point and you're going to tap in, like, because I know that I have a product that I know people will like when they see it. So I'm not going to like
yeah, absolutely.
move funny with it, you know?
Yeah, and you know your worth too, and you know your worth, and you know you've been consistent with it. So the more you're consistent with it, it's only gonna progress. It's all about consistency and quality, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not gonna just throw a bunch of episodes and it's shit. You gotta make sure that shit is the best thing ever and make people tap into it. Plus, it's all about the guest who's interesting enough to bring people into your podcast. You know what I mean? Same thing with music. Like I could do music with mad artists if I want to, but it's all about the chemistry. It's all about the connection, because like I told you, I don't really send music out to artists because one, it's all about chemistry, and chemistry portrays into the music. It brings out the music even more. And like I said, I'm blessed enough to have people come to my crib and we record. I do everything. I produce, I engineer, I master, I do all that shit. The only thing I don't do is rap. You know what I mean? And so fucking my thing is like my crib is the hub for all that. So I could tell people come through and I can knock your shit out in 10 minutes. Like no rough, no not make this shit sound perfect. And when however you feel, we could just knock it out. So for me, it's all about quality, but it's also about chemistry also. And I'm not gonna put out just anything, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Do you like the DIY feel more than like the corporate feel?
so yeah, to be honest with you, I do, because now I could do anything I want. Like I could do anything I want. I could drop anything I want. I could be around anything. Like, I don't have to be politically correct and shit like that. I could say how
Yeah.
I feel. I mean, I always said what I feel, but like now I could be really harsh and really be brash. And like I said, I'm not a harsh person. I'm just a realist. Like I tell you what it is. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
say it in a way that is not harsh, you know what I mean? Like I told like we mentioned before, when artists always mention why him and not me. I'm like, yo, it's not your time. It's not your time. Like that's
Yeah.
how I'm gonna tell you. That's how I'm gonna tell you. Like, yo, you can't look at somebody else's journey and expect it to happen to you. Everybody's journey is different. That's
Mhm.
it. Like it's not your time.
You have to like you think about your day, and I mean people listening, not you. Like you think about your day and what did you do? Break your day into 24 hours, single hours, and then think about how you spent all those hours. And then think about how everyone moves that exact same way and has so much shit other than what you want them to do.
Yeah.
Like they have family to deal with. They have to make their money. They have to think about travel. Like everyone has such like for anything to happen is kind of crazy at all. Like
Yeah.
for anyone to get together, for art to be created, it needs to be so monumental that it breaks time because that's what art is.
Yeah, and one thing, and it's funny you say that because one thing I'm always appreciative is somebody giving me their time. Like so when we like mentioned the listening session, like I said, it was my first time really doing that, right? But I knew how many people fuck with us. I already knew that. I knew people were gonna show up, but just the fact of spending your time to fuck with us, it's like, damn, yeah, I could have did anything else, especially you in words. Yeah, I came from mass, and I'm like looking at y'all, I'm like. I appreciate you. I can tell you that now that we're doing this. Like I appreciate you spending your time just to kick it. You know what I mean? Listen to some music. I told it to words plenty of times. Like I appreciate your time, but I could really tell people like every time I see them in the gatherings, yo, I thank you for your time for coming through. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm really a humble dude. You know what I mean? I'm appreciative at the end of the day because I know time waits for no man, and we got time to show appreciation and show that love for somebody else's shit. That's a
Yeah.
rare thing because a lot of people ain't gonna do that. I'm like, nah, I don't got time for that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
but the fact that a lot of people showed up and gave their time and they showed their appreciation to the shit, I'm mad fucking humble by that. And I always say thanks. I give thanks to myself to like, thank you, whatever, whoever's up there giving me that energy that's coming down to have people come through and show that love. I'm always appreciative by that.
Love is important. I think people need to focus more on that than the negative. And I know that's like it's like a tripping statement, you're like focus on the love,
Yeah,
not the
yeah, yeah,
hate.
yeah.
But
So
it's
like
true.
hippie
Like
shit.
if you break your time, if we're talking about time and breaking your time up into that, if you're mad hella hours of the day, you're
Yeah,
just gonna have shitty days. Like you gotta break that, make yourself happy, do what you love, even if it seems like I don't remember that drive to New York. I remember the great times I had. I remember the amazing album. Like I remember all that. I don't even know if you know, but my tire blew on the way back
yeah,
that
yeah. I
night.
heard, I heard, I heard in the wild part in the Bronx too, or some shit like
Yeah.
that.
And I'm trying to get the fucking tire out the back,
Yeah.
and Thousand is holding up all these like
Yeah.
paintings in gold frames, and fiends are watching us. And like
Yo, shit. Well, at least y'all made it out. That's the most
But that's
important.
that's amazing. That's why I'm a comedian. Is that's a hilarious story and that's a hilarious night that we know how to move. It ended up all being good. I got my tire fixed for $30 the next day. Who gives a fuck? But like, you got to live experiences. I don't want to be an old person, be like on my deathbed and be like, I wish I lived more.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah, that shit seems that's what scares me more than anything is being like, damn, I wish I could have done more.
No, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so my question for you is like being a comedian, right? How do you prepare yourself? Because comedian is rough thing to do, right? Like I always give it
Yeah.
up to people who go on stage and sense and bring out their humor to people that they never met. What do you do to prepare yourself? Or like obviously I know you probably get a little jittery because you just want to get this done and over with, but how do you prepare yourself?
Well, it's kind of like comedy. I'll compare it to music.
Right,
Music. Like when you're in the booth, you can run that as many times before the finished product comes out.
right,
And that's kind of like comedy, but we don't have a booth. Like last night I did a show. I drove an hour and a half both ways for it, and there was maybe 12 people in the audience. And I
right,
did maybe 15 minutes of comedy.
right.
Like that's literally what like I have to do to just like practice, you know?
Okay,
And that's,
okay.
I'll admit it, like I did, there weren't many people there. It was
Yeah, we get
whatever,
that
but
shit.
that's my
Yeah,
practice is like,
yeah.
I'll do it in the shittiest room. So when I get that, like, I'll announce it. I'm performing at Drumwork Fest this year,
Dope,
uh, on their comedy show. They got
dope.
like T.I., Conway's hosting it. They got a bunch of comedians from Wild and Out, and like I'm on that shit. So
Wait,
like,
question. Ti is doing comedy also?
yeah, T.I.'s
Oh, so
doing,
he's doing the yeah. I knew he was doing comedy, but he's doing comedy on that. Oh
yeah, on
shit,
Drumwork Fest this year.
that's
Yeah.
fucking amazing. I might go. I
I
gotta see
know.
it. Yo, that's
If you
fucking.
told like younger me I'd be doing comedy with T.I., I'd be like, you're lying. I remember my mom bought us front row tickets to see T.I. and Lil Wayne because my mom loved rap, like loves rap. Both my parents do. When I was like 13 years old, you know? So,
That's fire, man.
but
Yeah,
I want to prepare. I want to do those 12-person shows. I want to do a mic where I only do 5 minutes in front of six people. So then when a big opportunity does come, like I'm prepared. That's where I practice. I
yeah,
want to be like, I want to cut the jitters as much as possible. I want to put my 10,000 hours in. I want to like,
yeah.
that's kind of the only way to do it
Do you
and
feel
live
like
life.
the comedy mixed with the podcast, you're already overextending your 10,000 hours, or you still building that 10,000 hours?
I think I'm still building it. I put a lot of hours, but like, I want to get past that. Honestly, like, I realize that my path on this earth is a grinder. Like, I'm a lazy person. So
Okay.
I need to like push myself. And I think that's you have to be hard on your work. What I was talking about, like the best people you grew up with who you thought were like they're gonna be the best rappers or the best freestylers or whatever, probably don't even make music
Yeah,
because they felt good. They were like, I'm already good. I don't need the practice. Like
yeah.
I hate my stuff so much that I know I'm gonna always grind it out, and that's what's gonna make me make it, you know?
That's a great way to think about it. I'm similar to that. When I'm not, like I make beats fast, right? Like so I make like 5 or 6 a day. But the way my mind rolls is what's next, what's next, what's next. Even with albums, when I do albums, I'm like, what's next? What
Yeah.
I'm there when I'm there in the listening. I'm like, all right, what's next? You know, like what can we do next? How can we make this even more crazy like that? My mind is nonstop of moving like that, and I can never sit still of just letting shit pass or get used to my older work. I gotta do something new all the time. All the time. Yeah.
All right. This might be a weird question. How does that as an artist play into you being like a husband or a relationship man or like being like a real person? Because the real life is about slowing down, but
No,
creating's the opposite.
yeah, so I treat everything like a 9 to 5, right? So like when I do music, it's really like I start early. Like I don't do the late night sessions. It's very rare that I do the late night sessions. So like if I wake up like at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym real quick just to get my mind right, just to get my whole ready. I'm ready to go for the day. And then after that, I create. I make music like 5 or 6 beats, 7 beats, depending on the mood and how I feel. But like Monday through Saturday, Saturday, I normally will have people come through and I'll play some shit. And a lot of it won't even be my new shit that I made during the week. It'll be like some older shit, and I'll just play it. And whoever's feeling that at the moment, we'll just build off of that. And then Sunday, like during the week, like Mondays, Sundays, Tuesdays, I'll spend time with my wife. I pick her up, we go out to eat. Some human, like everyday life. Like, but at the same time, I'm grateful enough that my wife supports me. in everything I do. Like she's seen it all. She's seen my whole journey, and she always tells me when things doesn't work out, it's only gonna make your book even better. Like like when I be like with music, like music is always like a spiral of ups and downs, and I have my journeys of ups and I have my lows, and then I have my ups. You know what I mean? So it's one of those that I'm already used to, and I become numb to it. So my excitement is there, but I don't overly be excited because I'm already numb to it. I'm like, all right, what's next? I gotta do this. I gotta do that. But my wife always gives me the sense of like, you're gonna be good. Just relax, take it easy. Let's just go out to eat. Let's relax. So she's that extra voice in my head of like, don't worry about it. You're doing good. But let's just go out to eat. Let's live normal life. No more music. But at the same time, she's supportive. Like she tells me all the time, I'm like, yo, what you're doing is amazing. Like I get these paintings of it's crazy because like I got paintings of myself on my wall, like I'm a narcissist and shit like that. Like
I do too. I do too. I understand.
but it's just dope shit. Like, oh, this shit is dope. I'm gonna put this painting on my wall because I'm proud. I'm proud. But if you have somebody come to my crib, like, look at this, like this sociopath narcissist bastard with his face all over the wall. But I got all that shit. I got all my vinyl on the wall. I got plaque. Like I'm like my wife makes these plaques for me. Like she makes actual plaques of my vinyl. Like I just went platinum and she puts them on my wall. Like that's her shit. And but it's just me looking at it to get inspired. Like, all right, this is my first vinyl, and now this is like my 13th and 14th. Look how far I came to do this shit. And I got it in my walk just for myself to just look at it sometimes, like when no music is playing. I just watch and look at everything. The paintings of people who take their time drawing me. I'm just watching this shit. And in the back of my mind will be like, who would have fucking thought? You know what I mean? Because I was the behind the scenes guy, like way behind the scenes guy. Like I was just doing my little role. But now I'm like in the forefront of being a creative, and I'm doing it with my peoples. Like I'm doing it with people. Like these are not guys like the church. It's not guys that I just met on music. I met these are like my brothers. You know what I'm saying? And now they're doing their own thing. They're doing like I'm saying. I knew Al-Doe since high school. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew all these guys since we were young. So the fact that I'm getting we all getting our own separate reception and people really fucking with us or what we're doing as a collective and individually, I could really just sit back and be like, look how far we fucking came. And we're still not there yet, but I'm appreciative enough to know to see the journey of what's going on and be like, we're progressing, we're growing, we're doing what we got to do. We just got to keep on working. Like anything else, you got to be consistent.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you have lived all these lives in music and everything. You knew each other, said knew these guys since high school. When did you find your purpose? Like when did that moment come to you that you realized this is what you were supposed to do in this?
So like I told you, I always tapped into music. I've been doing music since I was like 15 years old in high school. Like like anybody else, I started rapping, I started rhyming and everything. And the great thing about rap, it brings people together. Like if you rap and I rap, we're gonna be in a cipher. And if you're nice, I'm nice, then we're gonna be a crew. It just becomes that.
Yeah.
And I met a few of my closest friends to this day that we met off for rapping, and some don't rap, and one does. And one of them is my man Blue, and we did a vinyl together, and we did this together. We did so much, but for so many years, it was always a plan, like how we're gonna do it, when we're gonna do it. If you asked me 20 years ago that we're gonna do it, I probably would have been like, nah, we're going for the major label, we're gonna go for do this. But I had to experience other shit to be like, everything's timing and everything took its course. And eventually, when I knew I was meant to do it's just really a feeling that I got. It was just something that I can't live without. I mean, and that sounds also cliche, but it's like really like how I live my life every day. Like how you brush your teeth, take a bath. I do that and then I make a beat. You know what I mean? Like I do that shit every day because I got to do something that's creative. And as far as when I knew it was meant for me is like changing people's lives, bro. Like being an A&R, you change a person's life. Like when Rhapsody, I changed the life. Like, and she told me, like, yo, you changed my life. Thank you so much. And that feeling that I got was like, oh shit, I really helped. Like, really helped the whole person's situation become something bigger for her to grow and do other things. So that was like a bug of me of just wanting to help and do that. And now, ironically, I'm changing my life with what I mean, doing what I want to do. And I always been on top of music, but I knew that was my purpose because I know I'm not doing it for the A&R trying to be cool in the rooms. I'm doing this on some pure hip hop. Like, yo, I know what's dope. I know what's fire. I just want to help elevate it more and push it to so people can see it. And I'm doing that amongst myself now with the people I'm with.
Did you have a moment that you knew you weren't going to be behind the scenes anymore? That you knew, like, no, I'm a producer. I want to be an artist.
Yeah, just explaining to people like what's dope, and they don't know what's dope. I mean, like this is like yo, you need to check out this, check out that, and they're like, cool, what's the numbers like? It's like, all right, I'm gonna tap out. I'm done. Like the numbers, like you want to see analytics, or you want to go with feeling and what the audience is doing right now. I'm not a numbers guy. I mean, I get it. It's a business thing. People like to see analytics. They want to see the numbers. But a lot of that shit could be misconceiving also because people pay for that shit. And you can kind of find out also when you go to the shows. Somebody with 1 million followers, but then you go to SOBs and it's looking light. Like
Oh my God. Yeah, I went to I got invited to see, like, I won't even give his name, but
right.
like a double XL freshman like 3 years ago who was, I think he had like 2.7 million followers, and there were 6 people in the audience.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so
And he
shit
didn't
like
even perform for those 6 people who were loving him. Like he literally was like,
that.
fuck them, and left the venue. I'm like,
Jesus Christ. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it could be misconceived. And that was always my thing of like explaining yo, and the thing about the music industry, from what I noticed, is like they gotta wait until it's out of this world for it to be like, yeah, fucking this shit's fire. I'm like, yo, why we can't just be like, yo, this shit, it's always been fire. Why we can't be this like, yo, it's fire from when they come up. Like, I never understood that. Like I said, I'm a fan from the ghetto, like from the bottom. Like, if I see something and I'm attached to it, and there's like a whole discography of shit, I'm gonna just go through the whole discography and see where you at right now and just tap in and listen to it just to show how much I'm a fan of it because I really love it.
like with what the Umbrella's doing right now, like Mickey Diamond releasing like an album every month or even more. Like,
I
I'm
told
like,
that
he has another album out. It's fire, more fire than the one before.
that day we went to Harvard. I told him, I'm like, yo, how many albums you dropping in this month? You know what I mean? Like, he drops a lot of shit. But same thing with Mickey Diamonds. Mickey Diamonds is one of my new favorite rappers, right? And fucking I found out about him last year. Like he reached out and I just went through a rabbit hole. Like going to the rabbit hole is always the best for me because now I'm like, I don't realize how many albums you have, but then I go to your very first and then go to your most recent. And I'll just tap in. And now he's one of my favorite rappers. Who else? I was like that with a lot of people coming up. Action Bronson,
Yeah.
Westside. Like I went through a whole dialogue. I mean, discography of their whole shit. But yeah, man, like
What do you think makes an artist make it? Like, why does an artist, like, what makes, I know what you said about West, but like, what makes an artist push it to that next level to become a West or an Action Bronson or something like that?
it gotta be it gotta be the overall look behind it, right? Like the story, and at the same time it's chess, like who's gonna put their arm around it. So with West, like I saw everything from the beginning, so it was like a slow progression of like Clark Kent, Static, Emery Jones, like you know what I mean, like Eminem, like you see that like how it's slowly becoming like people like tapping in. Danny Brown, I remember Danny Brown first saying it, Young
And
Blue,
Benny will say that Danny, because I'm Bruiser. Shout out Danny, I'm
yeah,
Bruiser
yeah,
Brigade.
right.
So like Danny being like, Benny being like, Danny's the first one to put us on was crazy, you know?
Actually Danny was the first one. Keep it real. Danny was the first one saying it on Twitter. I'll never forget that. Um, then you got guys like Clark Kent, like mentioned the Static, and everybody slowly becoming. It became a domino effect of like you heard this, you heard this, you heard this. So I feel like the word of mouth still plays a big part in making it because then that word of mouth became a domino effect of different shit plus consistency plus the look plus the story. You know what I mean? All that is like a package. Like so they got a dope look about them. Like Westside, you see Westside, he has a look about him. Plus the way he raps, how he talks. Um, Buffalo. Like when was the last time you heard anybody come out of Buffalo? Like so that's another story on top of it. Like there's a lot of void. So I feel like what makes an artist make it is the void. Like whatever void that's missing, and that person fills it, that could actually help. You know what I mean? Like so, but at the same time, it's all like I said, it's all about timing and who attach themselves to it too. Like, you know what I mean? And word of mouth plays a big part of it, So
Yeah.
but it's subjective. It could happen. People find out about somebody on YouTube and then they got a hit record and that's how they make it, and or you can
Yeah.
find so it varies. There's no set plan into it. You know what I mean? Like Ice Spice, like she made it within a year, and she had that one joint, and then it became a domino effect for her. So everybody has their own ways of how they make it. Obviously, she made it within a year, and Griselda made it within 5. So it's
Mm-hmm.
all about the journey, like you said. So you can't really call it nowadays. It's all about the timing or however that plays out. And the void, whatever void is missing, that the game wants or they miss. And obviously Griselda created this void that was missing in a long period of time. Outside of rock, obviously rock helped reinvent it.
Yeah.
And then Griselda brought it more into the light. And then after Griselda became a domino effect of other rappers. Like I remember that rabbit hole so much that I got so excited because I was like, oh shit, there's not just them. And then I started finding younger dudes like Rome Streets, the Uncle Johns, the Source Heist, the fucking, you know what I mean? A bunch of these guys
Yeah.
coming up.
Looking at all the features, like, ooh, who's Crime Apple? Who's fucking, and then you find out
They all
everyone
doing
in
songs.
Manteca, and then it's like, oh, it's
And they all doing songs together. Danielson with Crime Apple, ST Nag with Source Heist with Edo. Like it's like
yeah,
holy shit. And it gives me the closest feeling of how it was like in 98 and 94, like how I grew up listening to hip hop. Like you're gonna have a big point with Cameron and Cameron with the locks and the locks with Nori, like like
yeah.
gave me DMX with fucking white. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like it just gave me that feel of that shit. And I remember just being in that rabbit hole, and that just opened my whole portal of, oh nah, this is a thing. This is like a big thing. Now I gotta be a part of it. Now I wanna, I don't know how I'm gonna be a part of it. I just want to help and be
Yeah.
around it. And then eventually I became a producer and I started doing the shit.
Would you put your chips behind anyone right now?
Mm, yeah, me. Me and my crew.
I fuck with
Al-Doe,
that.
Street Mason, Blue. That's my shit.
Yeah.
And non-bias, non-bias, there's a lot, man. So there's a lot of dudes that's really doing their thing. But at the same time, it's like I don't even know if I see them doing the mainstream shit. Like, like I like ST a lot. ST's dope.
Yeah.
But I don't really see him really
Because
trying
he
to
doesn't
run it.
care about that stuff.
I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't really see him doing that, but like I can see Mickey doing something. I can see Mickey. I can see Mickey doing something.
Yeah.
He has to have that. I mean, I don't know. I can't really call it. 'Cause I can't say he has to have that one project. He has like 30.
No, I know that's tough. Yeah. It's
It's
tough. That's a hard question for me to put on you. I don't mean to, you
nah.
know.
It's actually opening my mind to like, who. I mean, there's a lot of guys that's doing their thing, but
I feel like Lord Jamonte could be. His shit has been so crazy recently.
he's
And he has
dope.
a fire bar that I sit. So he goes, I would have blown in 2014, but I didn't have the funding. And that shit sits with me. So like I think about that so much. Like just that, whatever, however you think about that with me, it's like, yeah, that is a big part of it too.
Yeah, I like Stalker YL.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who else? There's a lot.
Davino.
Yeah, there's a lot of those guys that I'm tapped in, but as far as like who I think is going to be the next after Griselda, it's
Yeah.
kind of odd because it's like,
Because Griselda's still in it. It's not like their era's past yet.
yeah, and like I said, there's going to be somebody that's probably going to take that times 10 into another force field. And I pray the guy's one of us. Keep it
Yeah.
real, like you know what I mean. I'm just not non-biased, you know what I mean. But
You like
I mean,
industry music? Like, do you like mainstream stuff?
I do and I don't, because it's like the same shit. Like I'm be honest, I love drill. I like drill shit. I like the drill music more. I've been on this rabbit hole with a bunch of Chicago drill artists that nobody heard of yet. But the shit is so crazy because like I want to listen to it, but I'm not too sure who murdered who because they like
Yeah. I started watching that documentary on King Von and I was like, this dude's too obsessed with it. Like this is too it made me uncomfortable, you know what
yeah,
I mean?
I think I felt the same way. Like I'm listening to it, but now I can't listen to it with a straight face because I'm like, yo, I think he killed somebody and I'm repeating everything he's saying.
When
Well,
I started seeing that he was yelling out times and the times matched up, I was like, this shit's wild.
it actually gets worse now because I be watching like little interviews of like the they're not even rappers, but they're like affiliated of the blocks with the rappers. And they're talking about, yeah, he committed that murder over there with this block and that. And I'm like, yo, they like dry snitching crazy in this shit. And I'm like, they talking to like a regular interview, like the crime never happened. I'm like, man, they that open about murder? I'm like, it's fucking nuts. Like, so
I hate that. Yeah, that's something I've had to edit shit out of the podcast that was like too incriminating on people, because it's like, really, you this is not
yeah, I know. I mean, yo, I heard some stories, but like I heard them, but I didn't hear them. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
I got you. You know what I mean? But fuck, I've been on this rabbit hole with a bunch of Chicago artists that's coming up. But like, I don't. The crazy shit is like I get attached to it, and then I try to disattach it because I don't even know if they're even gonna be here or they're gonna get locked up or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it's so crazy and nuts, you know. But yeah, mainstream is cool. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I'm a Kendrick fan. I love Kendrick a lot. Absol, Absol, I fuck
Yo,
with him.
that feature.
Yeah, man. Absol.
How did the all right? I know I just keep dragging this one out, but
Yeah.
how'd the Absol feature come along? That's crazy.
Al-Doe, Doe, like he fucked with Doe for a long time, and then like started fucking with the movement. So like Church is on the move. Like when he says that shit on his album, Church is on the move is like a direct towards what Doe and the collective is doing.
Wow.
So, but really Doe, man, like he fucked with Doe, and then we started to build, and he was sending me verses of that joint, and I started mixing it, and we got a chance to really build. You know what I mean? He's a dope. The way he puts his shit together is unique and ill. You know what I mean? Because that for me being like an engineer and a producer, I get to see different artists' processes of how they record. Some people go to straight 16. Some people break it down how they wait, how they could say certain syllables and certain words certain differently. So his process was ill. But yeah, pretty much to answer your question, that it was Al.Doe, man, and he just fucked with the movement. And
What was his process? I don't want to blow past that.
yeah, so he doesn't write. He doesn't write. I mean, like at all. Like so he like kind of like the Jay-Z thing, like mumble the word, but then he'll say like his raps in between the mumble. So when I had to could pretty much bring that verse together, it was like kind of like a puzzle, like trying to find like, oh, he said this, let me put this together. It was like 50 lines. I got like 50 waves of vocals, and I'm like, I don't even know what to start. Like it was like a puzzle. And I had to fucking piece that shit together and then give it right back to him. And then he actually said it with more convince, because the first one I got was like a rough. And he brought it back and he gave me more verses. He gave us more verses with that. And pretty much that sums up what you heard and all that. But the process is ill because I'm like, all right, I got like 50 lines of bars, and I gotta pretty much dissect them and put them together. It was like a challenge, but it was a dope challenge for me because I'm like, all right, let me see how I could let me see how good I am to make this shit into one solid verse. You know what I mean? And then I send it back. We send it back to him, and then he pretty much did it with more emphasis and more convincing. And then he gave us a little extra more bars on top of that, but it came out the way it came out, and it was dope, man. Mad appreciative off of that shit, you know. And it was dope. It was dope.
Yeah, that whole album's perfect. It's incredible. Thank you so much for putting that together, for inviting, having us at the listening party, and for doing this podcast.
Nah, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. Like I said, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of what you do. Continue doing what you do. I love to see the guests. I like to tap into even people I never heard of. And I'm a fan. I gotta say that first and foremost. I will tell you that in person, and I'll tell you that over here. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of what you do. I even told you about DMT shit. That's how tapped in.
I know that blew my mind a little bit. I was gonna, I sometimes I'm like, damn, I want to talk, but I had to let that one go because that shit blew my mind. Thank you.
So when you mentioned that shit, I was like, because I going back to that talk, because I always want to tap into that. I want to tap into. I just don't know where to tap into and how to do it in a right setting. I want to do it in a right setting. I don't want to do that shit in the Bronx.
No, on your couch, and then you come back.
Yeah,
and, the Simpsons are on TV.
Yeah, straight up. Like I want to do this shit right. I want to be in a fucking mountain in fucking Peru and just see like fucking water. I don't know, some crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to do that.
Crime and all them did it in Colombia on the top of a mountain. That shit sounds
shit
crazy.
like that. shit like that. I would like to experience and just be with the world type of shit.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, man. Yeah, definitely.
Man, thank you so much for doing this.
Nah, appreciate you. Thank you.
I hope you have a good rest of your day. Where can people find you?
Spanish_ran at Twitter and Instagram. SpanishRan.com. I got all the merch, the vinyl, the CDs, anything you need is on that website.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey,